My name is Yon Kim. I am an East Asian person with a bob haircut. My background is a beige wall with a door half opened. I will be reading from the beginning of my novel in progress, The Herb Gatherer. Content warning, reference to suicide. The Herb Gatherer. For she did feel herself a woman, though if you asked her, she would have hesitated before wondering aloud if she could long for other possibilities as well. Something other than woman that wasn't simply man, such as those she saw in the plants she lived amongst that bloomed flowers with both pistil and stamens, sprouted male blossoms one year and female ones the next. But alas, no one had asked her what she was, a question she never thought to ask herself. So the revelation lay dormant, overshadowed by the more pressing concerns of her life. Was going to pick the aconite, which she had planted and grown at the back of her shack in the woods on the mountain, the year she became a mother, lest such an occasion as this arise. Her child was dying. A cold caught in the early days of summer had lingered, or it was something entirely different, only she had not paid attention. As the sun withdrew its diabolical glare and the wind ushered a chill into the earth, his fever had rekindled and flared. He was still now, after days and nights of babbling and thrashing, but as she laid down her pen, blew out the lone candle illuminating the shack, she knew that death had marked him from the way he lay resignedly on soiled bedclothes, already like a corpse. She stumbled to her feet and made her way outside. Squinting at the morning light, she went around the shack with steps that were much firmer than how unsteady she felt, but were unsteady nonetheless. Arriving at her garden, a ruin. All the medicinal herbs she had carefully tended to for years had been roughly rooted out in the past few months. Nothing had worked to cure the boy. Now only the aconite remained, its flowers in full bloom, a cluster of 10 or so purple blossoms adorning the erect stem at its crown, hood-like sepals coyly concealing petals glistening at the tip with nectar. A curious thing, she thought. As death approached her child, she had visited the plant more and more often, each time certain that she would finally do the unthinkable and each time failing. And through it all, the flowers had persevered, not one wilting and maturing into fruit. It almost seemed like they grew lusher by the day, as if the more she stalled, the more beautiful they made themselves be. They knew. Of course they knew. Having learned from her mumblings and prayers that their lives would be taken to take another's life, 2 lives, in fact, including hers, they had embraced their fate, decided to taunt her with their vibrant hue, sweet odor. Pluck me, eat me. She tried to smile. Today, she would really do it. Grind the plant's roots and flowers together and spoon the purple mush into the boy's mouth like baby food, scraping up whatever was left of it once he had his fill. The last motherly thing she would do for him. He would die instantly. She, being healthy, would not. That did not matter to her anymore. She would have done it, she told herself later that day. She really would have. But between you and me, did you really think she would? That I would tell you a story that ended before it could even begin? I hope not. In any case, it was precisely at this moment as she reached for the aconite, ready to pull the deadly plant from the ground, touch its toxic roots with her naked hands and barely stop herself from gnawing at them, dirt and all, that her ears perked up at the sound of leaves crackling under the footsteps of an animal intentionally making itself known. She looked up from the flowers in search of the source of the rustle, its small white-haired shape that would be impossible to miss amidst the overwhelming green and brown of her surroundings. And sure enough, the dog barked from below just as she turned her gaze downhill. There, beyond the canopy of trees that hid her shack in a snug corner of the mountain, panting but otherwise calm, her lolling tongue flushed and pink against her snowy body, was Talle. Tallea, she called. She was surprised by the volume of her own voice, the way it traveled through the woods and echoed in the distance and traveled back to her, calling her softly by a name that was not hers. 달래야, 달래야. To be called by a name lovingly given, she thought then. Her name, if she could still call it hers, had been lost a long time ago. It was faint in her memories now. She tried to enunciate it, but nothing came, only a stale sigh. Her mother, who had named her, was long gone from her life. After that, her name had had no use. The closest person she'd had to a lover had never asked her name, as she had never asked his. His son, her son, called her Amma. It was his first word, the word he used most ever since he learned to talk, the word she thought stalked her from behind every time she was out of her sight, only to realize with a shudder that she had imagined it. Now she was resigned to it, referred to herself with it even. Just a while ago, before coming out back from the shack, she had mumbled under her breath to her unhearing son, Oma prepared a present for you. You wait and stay right here, okay? Thank you.